Hi there. Welcome back if you were here last week. My name is Tammy. Today I'm going to show you my art so you'll know what kind of an artist I am and have a little bit of background to know where I'm at in my art journey, as well as show you my project idea and how far I've gotten along with that so far. I also want to show you some of my source material to give you some ideas where you might, find some of your own that'll be more in line with the things that you want to paint or draw. Let's get started on that. These are a couple of my older drawings. They were just things I was doing for fun. I wasn't planning on selling them. That little rat there is from something I did for Christmas several years ago, and then just something I just come up with out of my mind again. And that one, same way. She was just something I came up with just on my own. I wasn't putting a lot of thought into them. I had no plan of selling any of these. They were all just for my own enjoyment. The ones I'm showing you now, these are the ones that I was actually considering selling, but I just couldn't bear to let them go. And this being one of my favorites right here, I took them out of the frames so I could show them to you. I may well regret that. Most of my art is dark, or it leans toward the dark side. I don't really do any what you call horror art, other than I love to draw skulls, but there's never any blood or guts or anything like that in my art. It's just leans toward the darker side, the more macabre, I guess is the word. And most of them were just ideas. They were not any kind of other than having a skull reference, there was no other reference for what I was doing. But this one here, I actually took the picture of that old stump with those mushrooms and the morning glories growing there were in my neighbor's yard. Now the skulls were reference material, and so were the little lizards. We have lizards around here, but I didn't take any pictures of them. I just got those off of Pixabay, I believe. And now I'm going to show you my watercolor. Now these are some of my first watercolors. Just 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4. But I had an idea for something like a children's book. As you see, I like rats. So that's what that was. This is just done with those white knights, the first paints I got. And I believe this was Canson watercolor paper. That was also, I believe, done with white knights. And I think that is cotton. That's Fabriano cotton watercolor paper. It did have a resource for that. I used photo manipulation. And this is just a little flimsy Canson mixed media paper. I just happened to really love that. Just drew that out of my head. No resource for that. Now these are some of my more recent watercolors, and I'm fairly happy with these. These were just memories from when I was a child. It was an old gate a memory. I had no photograph for that, and I was pretty happy with it, so I hung on to that. This is another old memory. I was making ice cream. No resource, just did the best I could with what I could remember. And this one was a tutorial. I really loved that foreground right there, and I wanted to try to figure out how he did that, so I was watching his tutorial and the background. And I think his name was Paul Clark. I'll see if I can't find that, and I'll list it in the description if anyone else is interested. That was a really fun painting to do. And this is one of my favorite of the watercolors that I've done in recently. That was a resource off of Paint My Photo. I'll see if I can find the link for it in case anyone's interested to see what it actually looked like in the resource. But I decided, I just couldn't sell that. Here I am with that same old story of doing things that I do think are really what I did really well on, but now I don't want to sell them. So that's why I just put that all out of my mind and decided to do something different. Now I'm going to show you the kind of resource material I'm talking about and give you some examples and show you what I have on hand. And then you can decide for yourself what kind of artwork you want to do and what resource books you'll want to have. Let's get started on that. This is one of the first books that I got that I was telling you about. It's Fairies by Brian Froud and Alan Lee. It was printed about 40 years ago. And what I wanted to show you is that there's just a wealth of information in here. You can use these hands. You could use something in these clouds. You don't have to use the whole picture. I have to be careful where I turn to in this because there's a lot of nudes as well. You have very simple hands. Something a person could use just for an idea, use for inspiration. There's just a wealth of sketches, ideas. And if you didn't want to use that whole figure, well, those leaves and the grass could definitely go into something totally different. There's all these facial expressions in here. A lot of them are just sketches, so you don't even have, you may have nothing to do with color. Gives you a really good idea of how to get the sketch going. And this is another one where you might want to just use those plants or those flowers, and that's all you would have to use from the pictures. And the one I'm currently using is Good Fairies, Bad Fairies. This one also has a wealth of sketches and drawings. Right on the cover, here's the first thing you could see. Let you know right off there's liable to be something good in here. It's also by Brian Froud. And there's just sketches all over, just to get ideas. I'm currently using this one right here, this little guy, and in the one that I'm trying to do right now. And I'll show you a little bit of that later on. And like this here, all this background, there's leaves, there's flowers, there's a type of frog there. There's just so much to choose from. The sketches, more sketches. You see what I'm saying about these Brian Froud books. I have several, and this little guy right here is a good one. You could do something with. Like I say, a lot of his stuff has just a sketch in it, and then you can go on yourself and do whatever you want to change it and just use it for an inspiration, but you've got an idea of how he sketched that. And there's many books like this out there, I'm sure. And it also has Bad Fairies, a two-sided book, and this side too, just full of ideas. Just everything everywhere you look, there's something more that you could use as inspiration for what you might want, something you might want to do. You won't have to spend many minutes looking through this book before there'll be some little something that'll catch your eye and you'll be ready to draw. I also have this great big heavy book of his, Brian Froud's World of Fairy, excuse me. But this book is a bit cumbersome, but the pictures are also quite a bit bigger, so that's just that much easier to see what's going on. And you can see there's sticks, some of them are shaded, there's flowers, fairy wings, and all these facial expressions as well. There's sketches and backgrounds, they're just loaded in these books. And any kind of an art book that you got would have, things like that. If they're just the pictures of an artist's works, you can just go through and just pick out something that catches your interest and use that to get started. I also have books like this that I've had for years, and I don't draw really gory type characters, but I do draw macabre, more scary looking stuff, or the dark side of life sort of things, and the dark side of fantasy. And you can look through here, and if you just wanted to see how to work with a piece of fabric, I'm not fixing to draw a witch or a broom, either one, but that fabric gives me an idea. And the thing's just full of stuff like that. And his book, this is by Bob Hobbs, Dark Art. It was very inexpensive. Probably got it secondhand. I'm sure I got it secondhand. And drawing the undead. Now, I'm not interested in drawing the undead personally, but I do love to draw skeletons. And that's why I have this book. There's a few things in here that you could draw from, even if you're not wanting to draw this particular type of art, which I do not. But you could go, you know, just that face gives you something to, some kind of an idea to get you moving. I would never draw that personally, but now I see how the structure of these wings. And like I say, I figure there's probably not as many people that are interested in the dark art, you know, darker type macabre art or fairies, but you can do anything you want to. Another good resource, for me anyway, is my sketchbook. This is the cheapest sketchbook I could find. I got this thing at Walmart. And in case you're wondering why I get some of my things at Walmart instead of ordering them from, you know, a shop or something, as I live in a very small town, we have about 3 stores here where you could buy anything, even something simple like this little sketchbook. And 2 of them have the word dollar in their the beginning of their name, and the other one is Walmart. So if I don't want to have to drive 45 minutes to get something, then I'll have to see if the little rinky-dink Walmart where I live has anything to choose from. Or order, because I get most of my stuff from Jerry's Artorama. But anyway, this sketchbook is just ideas. I don't have anything in here that had a reference. I was just sitting there while my husband was watching his westerns that I was not interested in, and was just doodling around. And you don't have to worry about drawing anything in here that you would feel bad because you put it on good paper, because you know better than to use this for that. The paper itself is just a cut above a paperback novel. It's not much different. You can't put water on it. It would just practically disintegrate. But now when I get ready to draw something, I can look back, if I happen to look back at my sketchbook and see how I did something at one time or another when I was just messing around. And that could very well be the inspiration for something else. I don't have to worry that I'm using anyone else's material, or resource material. These are just things that I just messed around with to see how it would look. And if it turned into something I was interested in, then I can go back and really work on that and turn it into some type of a artwork and not just a sketch. I'm using this as my resource material for my drawing on my better paper, because like I say, this paper it's just, you couldn't do anything with it. I don't even believe it would take a colored pencil well. And like this little face, I did do something, one of those up on my wall there that I like, was done based on that face. And I don't spend too much time on these because this paper is not worth you putting that kind of time into it. Just to get the drawing, like I say, get the drawing done, see how I like the composition or how I like the face, whatever I've done here, and then I can go back and redraw my own work. And I've got loads of these things laying around the house, just cheap ones, not this particular brand, but just cheap sketchbooks. And this right here is not something I would actually use as a resource for an artwork. I don't think. I've not looked that closely at it. This belonged to one of my grandchildren. Fabulous Florals coloring book, Timeless Creations. But when you're trying to warm up and you're not sure what you want to draw, exactly, you can look through here. Maybe see some designs. These would make great warm-up exercises. Or just when you want to fiddle around and you're not really interested in putting too much thought into it, just, using your pencil, getting your muscles warmed up. There are all kinds of things in this little coloring book. I think this is an adult coloring book. I'm not too sure. Like I said, it belonged to my grandkids. But I've looked at that and I thought, well, I might be able to do something. Like I say, with just sitting there in one of those sketchbooks. But you look at it, get an idea. You don't have to keep this right in front of you. You can look at that and see what it is and then just sit down and do your own thing. But now you don't have to get an idea. Now this is the book that I'm currently using as my inspiration. Let me just show you where I've got my ideas from. Didn't take me too long flipping through this book to definitely come up on something I was interested in. There it is. This little face right here. That's all I wanted out of that picture, was that little face and, you know, maybe kind of the shoulder position. The rest of it, the leaves or whatnot, I added my own. But that got me inspired, got me started on doing something for myself. And I did it in this little Montville watercolor book. And when I started this, I was using some paints that were just, I had ordered a palette from eBay. It was used. And there was already some watercolor in there. I don't even know what brand they are. They were just where someone had squirted them out of their own tubes and had left them in that palette. They feel kind of sticky, so I think they're honey-based, and they work. They're so smooth. So I'm pretty sure that it's some type of a honey-based, probably a little more expensive type of paint. But anyway, so I wasn't even worried about wasting paint at that point on this particular one. But that was my inspiration there. You can see where I got that. And I just used his to get me going. I didn't spend any time on the internet or on any of the sites that have resources. I just jumped right in, and it turned out fine. I turned the page, as you can see, and I saw that face. That caught my interest. So I did my own. I didn't want to copy his entire picture again. I just went about doing what I thought was interesting about the picture when I first saw it. And now the little guy on top of her head, that was my own idea. I probably was influenced by something I'd seen in one of these books, but I didn't use any resource for that. And let me show you that when I did this the first time, it didn't turn out like I hoped. I had my confidence built up on that first one. That went just beautifully. I had no problems. But on the second one, I drew it, and I thought, I'm not going to take my time. I can just jump right in. And I did. And you see where that went? So I just was using Daniel Smith on this. I had to stop there for a minute and start back up. My husband came in. He didn't realize I was filming. Anyway, I had my confidence built up on that first one, as I was saying, and so I didn't think I needed to take my time. I just jump right in and use those Daniel Smiths on this one. And you see where that went, because I went with much darker color. Didn't want to take the time to layer that up like I should have. Now all these marks here, I've just been using it for test paper since then, since I'm already got it messed up. But it went terrible. And since I had not spent time looking for source material, I had time to start over, because I hadn't wasted any of my time hunting around, sitting in there on that computer of mine. But I just ripped that, you can see, I ripped that right out of that book. And a year from now, nobody will ever know the difference, because I'll have used this all up as far as using it for test paper and have it tossed away. File 13, as they say, right into the trash. And I've started another project, and I didn't have to go far to find what I wanted to try my hand at. And this is a little more complicated, so it may not go well either. And I may be showing you another picture that didn't turn out like I hoped, and start something else, because I have extra time now. I don't spend time hunting for source material. This one right here, I'm using that little guy right there. I'm not using the whole picture, but I had considered using the flowers, but I changed my mind on that. And I'm trying to hold this where you can see it. I don't know how well the camera will pick that up. It's just a light sketch. And I put this mushroom here and that little guy right there. And I want to try to put in some background, I think grass is what I probably will go with. Something simple. But this is just my starting point. And like I said, if you don't like what you got, I've drawn really lightly, and I can go take that off and start again. Or you can just tear that page out and get busy again. You've got spare time now. You've got more time to actually do something than you had before because you're not wasting time. And I do draw real light. I have a very heavy hand when I draw. I was just going to tell you. I accidentally stuck my kneaded eraser on the end of my pencil one day because I kept losing them. And I had to try to find it on my desk. So I just stuck it on there and laid it aside. But when I picked it up, I was in a hurry, and it still had that kneaded eraser on the end of it. And I've noticed when I draw, that weight on the end of that pencil, I can draw super light. My strokes are not shaking like they used to because my hands are a bit shaky now. But I can just draw super light, and I've already got my eraser right there on hand. Now, I don't figure I'm a genius. Somebody else probably figured this out long before I came along. But I had never seen it on any other videos, and I didn't even consider, anything about that. It just sounds like a silly idea. But it has made a huge difference in my drawings. And I can adjust it to the amount of weight that I want just by moving it up and down the pencil. And I have it just about the way I want it. I can pinch me out a little piece, and I can erase with that, and still have my eraser right there ready to go. And that's probably about enough of that for now. I'll check this video and see how long it is, and then I'll see if we're going to have more. Something I wanted to add about having your books for source material is don't get lost looking at your source material. Choose a book. You can either put a time limit or just plan to go with the first thing that you see that looks interesting. But don't get mired down looking through source material either. That's also a pitfall. And that's really all the time I have for today. I'm glad you joined me. And I'd like to say I leave you in peace. And may your creative light continue to shine bright. Bye for now.